Okay, so here we are. We're just jumping into verse 15 out of verse 14, but let's start at verse 12 and read from there. So it says, "Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts and kindness, humility and meekness and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in one body, and be thankful." So we see this idea of love coming out, binding all these virtues of Christ together in perfect harmony. But it's not just the virtues, it's not just the character of Christ within ourselves, like as individuals, but rather within ourselves as an assembly of believers. This is about relationships. So the character of Christ, the virtues that he gives us in his grace, aren't just for us, but rather it's for all of us together, not just me, myself, and I, but rather you, me, and everybody, especially within the local body, but the church as a whole. And as we reach out to the world, that they join in as they come to know Christ. But so we come to this idea of letting the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, in terms of not just how I feel in my heart, but rather what my heart is responding to in terms of everyone else. So you let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. But it's not my peace. It's not a peace I achieve. It's the peace of Christ. He achieved this with his death and resurrection, so that I have peace, yes, with the Lord, and yes, within myself, but also peace with everyone else as I follow the Lord, and as we as a body follow the Lord. And this harmony starts to be one through his love, through his meekness and patience, the humility. But it's the peace of Christ that rules over us, that overrules our other emotions, overrules even our desires and impulses, that we don't cling to the sin, but rather we let the peace of Christ rule in our hearts. Rather than harboring sin or bitterness, we're forgiving, we're being meek, we're being patient. Because to this we were called. I think it's, let's see, 1 Peter, gotta find it. Let's see, my other one. 1 Peter, I think it's chapter 2. Yep, 1 Peter chapter 2, where it talks about bearing up under unjust suffering in verse 19, but in verse 21 he says, "To this you were called." So you got 1 Peter 2:21, because you were called to this. So indeed, to which you were called in one body. So we're supposed to be concerned for each other as one body would be. You have that like in 1 Corinthians 12. Ooh, I don't know. Let's see, 1 Corinthians 12. I think it would be. The whole chapter really, but 1 Corinthians 12, the whole chapter. But it talks about that there's no division of the body, but they have equal concern for each other, and that's the concept. So, the whole chapter, but you can look at specific verses, like 24 to 25. So we were indeed called to one body. So, who called us? The Lord did. The Lord himself called us. So we're called one body. And so then he ends this verse, although, verses are kind of just a reference point, not an actual spot to leave off. But he says, be thankful that we can be unified, that we can be together in this. So that's verse 15. We'll jump into verse 16 in the very next one.